Hello and welcome to the OverSeers. I'm Nightwing, joined by my co-host Proelius, and uh, we're coming right off the heels of the Summer Showdown, which was one of, I think, the best tournaments I've seen in Overwatch. This season has been really good, but I think uh, this tournament was also very interesting to look at. So, Shanghai obviously win the tournament with a very good showing from the APAC region uh, and them winning against the Chengdu Hunters. So I think one it was probably the most Chengdu way that they lost with with that C9, but I think uh, it was quite clear that Shanghai was the better team in that situation. That said, uh, what do you think about how the Summer Showdown went, Prolius?
It was most definitely a very entertaining tournament, not only because we still saw a ton of variety from all of the teams, but also because of the sort of storylines we saw developing. Because I think a lot of people, including us, expected the Dragons to take the tournament, but we didn't think that they would be facing off against Chengdu in the finals because we thought they were the weakest team out of the four. But Chengdu, they proved that they were better than the Rain and better than Dallas Fuel, and they made it to the finals. And there was some really impressive showings from them, especially I think by Leaf and Monk, who really popped off hard during almost all of the matches. And I think their loss wasn't because they inherently played badly. I think Shanghai was just far superior in this meta. Like they were super dominant even during the qualifiers. So we are not really surprised, but happy to see that the Chengdu Hunters are kind of proving that they're also a competent team, and in the right meta they can work wonders.
Yeah, definitely. I think uh, especially many people, because of Leaf's performance throughout this particular tournament, are quite convinced that even though he's not on the best team necessarily speaking, but because of that just amazing carry performance that he's been putting out consistently throughout the entire season, and he's, I think, just definitely the best player on Chengdu, that he is in contention for that MVP vote, and many people think that he should be taking it over players like Fearless. Um, so that's definitely an opinion people have. Uh, I definitely see where they're coming from, and yeah, great performance from Chengdu as well. Shanghai do clutch it out. I think one of the reasons that the APAC region seemed more dominant is just because that ball comp is something that the NA teams don't really know how to practice with or against. Because this was a tweet that Fate had put out as well, where some people were saying that the NA region struggled because of some flight issues, logistics, such as the Dallas fuel arriving probably a week before, almost when before the tournament started. But the Atlanta Rain, I believe, got there maybe 1 or 2 days before the tournament started. So there was a lot of excusing excuses being put around. But uh, despite that, Fate did mention that the NA teams don't really have a way to kind of practice those ball comps because the other Overwatch League teams are on vacation, and teams like the Fuel and the Rain don't really have anyone to practice against. So that's something to keep in mind. That said, again, great execution of that same ball comp by the two APAC teams. And I mean, you can see the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So let's get down to it. Uh, One of the a major piece of news that we have uh, for this week is the Shanghai Dragons have actually signed Daemin, who is a player that used to play for them as an assistant coach. So, would you like to walk me through this, Prayers?
Yeah, so you said it, Nightwing. Damon used to be a player for the Shanghai Dragons back in season one. But naturally he has now shifted to a coaching position. Um, mainly like spending a lot of time with the kind of 2020 iteration of Element Mystic. Like the one with Kellen, Attack, Ansun J, all of those players. And he had some success, especially in the Contenders Gauntlet with them, after which he coached the Guangzhou Charge for a bit and was signed like right before the Summer Showdown playoffs by the Shanghai Dragons. So they like did put a tweet out saying that, like we are just announcing that Daemin is with us, but he's been coaching the team all throughout the qualifiers as well. So it's like if the Shanghai Dragons complete domination of this meta like has anything to do with Damon's expertise and understanding of the game, that's a great sign because it's an already dominant team becoming even more invincible. So I think it's especially useful for any team when you have a coach that used to be a player, because they can provide really unique perspectives to your team and help them understand things like team dynamics, callouts, positioning on certain heroes, and just a whole lot of synergetic stuff, because they have been in their shoes before. So I think it's great that he's present with them and is just bolstering the coaching staff of the Dragons, who already have kind of one of the best head coaches in Moon. So yeah, like a great move by them. What do you think of this?
Yeah, so while there is some fair criticism to be made here that can he really provide a winning player's perspective, considering that he was on that 0 and 40 Shanghai Dragons team? That said, you should know that, uh, as has been reported by many people, uh, in that 2018 season, the people that worked hardest in terms of putting in the longest scrim hours, just putting all of their sweat and tears into just making the team work, was actually the Shanghai Dragons, where they would stay uh, much during the after hours compared to other teams when they would already pack up and go to the residences. The Shanghai Dragons would still be there in the evening, at night, scrimming. So if nothing else, I think he will at least have some kind of sympathy for his players, or conversely know how to drive them hard, right? But I think the majority of where you would give credit to this coach, Daemin, is because of his experience with Meta Athena, with Element Mystic. This would not be the Element Mystic that consisted of Doha, Sparkle, and the like, but the iteration of Element Mystic that came right after that, with players like Ansunje, MCD, Attack, Heesang, etc., which was also a team that did quite well and had some very skilled players on it. So he did know how to kind of work with those players and get them to reasonable success. He also worked with the Guangzhou Charge, so I think he's had a go at the merry-go-round uh, of Overwatch, and he's seen it all, in my opinion. So he should be a good fit for the team. And clearly, something has to be working well because the Shanghai Dragons, I mean, they were looking dominant earlier as well, but they look just as dominant right now. So it's definitely not not a negative at the very least. So good on Shanghai for picking up this coach, and I hope he serves them well. So the next bit of news that we've got on the blog is the Spark releasing their interim head coach Andante and their assistant coach Mentalist. So the only real coach they've got left is U4, which is a coach that they've uh, had since 2019. So what are your thoughts about this, Prolius?
I'm a little bit puzzled at why the Spark are going through so many coaching changes within such a short span of time. Because it was only like a couple of months ago, I think, that they announced Pagion's kind of departure from the team. And Pagion, of course, a great head coach who had seen a lot of success, most notably with the runaway iteration of the Vancouver Titans. And Andante used to work with him, so I was still keen on seeing where the Spark would go with Andante at the helm. But like the management or whoever's in charge seemingly isn't happy, even like rather wasn't happy with the pieces they had, so they've just dropped them as well and are going for like someone new with whom we don't know about yet. And I don't necessarily know that they've released these coaches, because it could just be that they've got some friction with the team, like, once again, the Vancouver Titans did, back last year when they dropped their roster and picked up all of those second win and third impact players. So I mean, it doesn't really bode well, because historically speaking, a team that's gone through many swift coaching changes haven't been able to do that well. That said, I think the Spark have still had a positive season overall. They've definitely looked good in parts. I think Shai has like a lot of potential, and he's naturally showing off his skill. He could be one of the candidates for Rookie of the Year, and there are also some other really good pieces like MCD on the flex support. Bernard has actually been surprisingly consistent, and I still think Gushue is a really competent main tank. So they've got a lot of good pieces, but they definitely need a stable coaching structure to kind of reinforce that talent and take it to that playoff level, which is where they're kind of falling short at the moment. But yeah, I'm interested to know your takes on this as well, Nightwing.
So I think for the Spark, you've seen them field basically only Korean players apart from Shire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Gu Shue as well. But apart from that, the players that they've got, the Chinese players that they've got riding the bench, have never really seen the light of day, which is very strange, I think. And maybe it may be something that upper management is concerned about, and that maybe why these uh, coaches are kind of just getting shifted around, where you haven't really seen Coldest, Mika, or Liga, especially Liga, who I really was expecting to see this far into the season. And he's just not being played at all. It's just Bernard on that role all the time. They've had some success, relatively speaking, putting in Somin Su on roles like the Sombra. I don't think it was supremely effective, but it's something that the coaches toyed around with. Uh, so the Spark are just in this constant state of experimentation, but they're not fielding some of their players, which I find quite strange. And I don't really know where they think they're going to go from here, because at this point you're three-fourths of the way through the season, uh, and it's going to be quite difficult to kind of salvage this season, especially considering the fact that uh, the details about the playoffs have already come up, and so there's only going to be two teams that are going to make it into the playoffs through the league point system from the East region, and then one more team will be going through a play-in system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really Hangzhou's only shot here, but I don't think it's a done deal for them, because currently they're gonna have to find a new head coach. They're gonna have to work with him, set up that system again, and see again which players to field. Uh, it's a lot of headache for them, and I would definitely not want to be in their shoes. I think Hangzhou should have handled this a lot better, and clearly something is very wrong with their system at the moment. So uh, I don't envy them, but good luck to them, I guess. So should we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So next we've got Ivy retiring from professional Overwatch. He most recently played on the New York Excelsior. What do you think about this departure?
It's a pretty sad one, honestly, because the way Ivy retired was not with a bang, which is where you would want some of these pro players to actually kind of end on a high note, right? He actually went out with quite a whimper because his playtime had been reduced drastically over the past few months, and he was just being like kept on the bench instead. Sorry, in place of Feather or Guangboom, with Flora kind of being the stable hit scan DPS for the team. So, I mean, I don't know if he was benched because he wanted to retire or he retired because he was benched, right? So, we don't really know all too much, but I just feel like he showed some really good potential last year with the Philadelphia Fusion, especially on heroes like the Mei and Hanzo. Uh, he could have shown us a lot more, I think, if he had the opportunity. And I was actually curious to see how well he would do on a kind of weaker team because last year Philly was like quite formidable, and the NYXL have been fairly kind of mediocre, to be honest. So I was quite like looking forward to seeing more of Ivy. But yeah, I wish him luck in whatever he does next, and hope that the NYXL are able to still find success with the kind of DPS trio that they have remaining. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so for the NYXL, so far this year, for the DPS lineup, Flora has been kind of a mainstay. He plays a pretty good tracer, if I'm being completely honest, despite how down I was on him at the beginning of the season. His can DPS is quite good, though Guangbong does take over when he is fielded. Uh, I think Flora is a flexible enough player, uh, and Feather was mostly being played on those echo kind of roles. I think the NYXL were not really sure what to do with either of their flex DPS players, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think Feather has looked as impressive as we were led to believe, and Ivy was looking a lot worse than he was with the Philadelphia Fusion last year. So I don't really know what to think. I think it's unfortunate that we have to see Ivy retire. I think he could have maybe salvaged uh, something if he were maybe allowed another year, another crack at it, because he did genuinely look very impressive last year with the Philly Fusion. Uh, like you said, on that May, on that Hanzo, and sometimes when they would play him on the Genji over EQO, he would look pretty damn good there as well. And sometimes you'd flex over to that Tracer as well. That would also look pretty decent. So he's a good player. I think he just didn't really have the right tools this season to be able to kind of showcase himself. And yeah, he's gone out with a bit of a whimper. I think it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is, I guess. Good luck to him with whatever he's doing. And let's go on to the next topic we have on hand, which is uh, we're going to try and think about what heroes uh, could see a ban for the Countdown Cup. So, what are your thoughts, Progress?
So look, I generally just go by statistics because that's what like the Overwatch League kind of weighs like the chances of a hero getting banned based on their playtime. So I don't think it's looking all too good for uh, the Countdown Cup meta because the heroes with the most playtime are, at least on the tank front, Winston and Diva. I think Diva's the highest one, and then there's Winston, who are like both tank heroes that I very much enjoy watching. Um, I I also want to point out a tweet which McGravy put out saying that like Diva should not be banned because she kind of keeps a lot of different DPS heroes in check, and I tend to agree. As someone who plays a lot of off tank, I think having a Diva can make a world of difference because you can contest some you can contest multiple different flankers as well as snipers, as well as just flying DPS heroes like Farah and Echo. So she's just a really versatile hero, and even though you don't get a lot of reliable DPS like with Zarya, you kind of make up for it with that extra peel potential and the sort of additional like defensive plays that you can make with your defense matrix. Even if it's like it could be something as huge as eating a grav, or something as mediocre but still mega effective as eating an anti-nade. So I really wouldn't want to see Diva out, and I naturally wouldn't want to see Winston out because he's, I think, one of the best designed heroes in Overwatch, and kind of quintessentially what main tanking is all about, which is just like buying space for your team, not being the hero all the time, but still having that insane pop-off potential. And I've frankly enjoyed watching Dive and Double Bubble a lot. So And obviously, Fearless Winston, please do not ban that stuff. Like, I can't get enough of it. So, um, I do hope they ban some really cheesy tank like Orisa or Sigma. Uh, Unlikely, but yeah. At least that's what I feel on the tank front. Do you want to comment about the DPS? Because I know you have a particular worry with respect to the DPS meta.
Okay, so I hate to kind of invalidate uh, what we're talking about here, but I've just noticed that there is going to be a Countdown Cup Hero Pool draft done by Platchat,
Yeah.
where they're going to decide the hero picks, the hero bans through games of marbles, which is just quite random. So that's going to be very interesting because it's not really something that's very well thought out. It's just going to be probably heroes that have somewhat decent usage. They're going to be put into that pool, and then they'll just marble it out, I guess. So I guess it's just fingers crossed in that sense. So I will kind of address what you alluded to, where so in this Countdown Cup patch, we're getting a nerf to most hit scans apart from Widowmaker, uh, as well as these nerfs will apply to Wrecking Ball and Baptiste as well, where your damage fall off has kind of uh, increased. So you deal less damage at range. And that worries me a little bit because we're already seeing these incredibly dominant flex DPS picks for the most part. Sim obviously is not a traditional hit scan, even if the generally hit scan player is playing them these days. So I think that's probably the kind of heroes that we'll see: the Sim, the Mei, the Echo, the Pharah, the Doomfist, uh, and obviously you could throw Tracer in there. And then I guess we're just kind of hoping that uh, some some of these annoying heroes gets banned, uh, but it's kind of up to chance really now that this news has kind of dropped. So yeah, I don't really see what there is to analyze apart from probably Flex DPS will be uh, the stronger kind of half of the DPS spectrum compared to Hitscan. And yeah, fingers crossed, Splatchat pick something pick something good.
Dude, I think honestly they should just make Soi's cat Nori do it again. Because Nori just gave us like the first ever Mayban last season. I was like a huge turnaround for the league because everyone was looking forward to it. So, and I honestly just trust cats more than especially Sideshow. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, marbles is a fair game. It's a real man's game. It's honest, unlike the Overwatch we saw very often in the Summer Showdown. Lots of sim TPs flying around. So let's hope for the best and see how it goes, I guess. We'll probably cover these bands in the next episode going forward. Uh, so, yeah, apart from this, we've just got one final bit of news, and that is, of course, like I mentioned before, we've got the playoff format for the Overwatch League 2021 season. So, would you like to walk me through the spoilers?
Yeah, sure. So, like simply put, there will be 5 teams that qualify for the double elimination bracket of the final playoffs. So there'll be 3 teams from the NA region, 2 teams from the APAC region, and these will kind of be determined on the basis of seeding. So teams that are like, once again, I'm not going through the numbers, but higher seeded teams just more likely to qualify. Lower seeded teams get to play it out in a single elimination play-in bracket to decide who gets to kind of face off against the higher seeded teams to qualify for the double elimination bracket. So 3 NE teams, 2 APAC teams meet up at Arlington from the 16th to the 19th of September, and we will get 2 teams from this bracket who will be the finalists. And these finalists will play in the grand finals, which will be hosted in LA on the 25th of September. And all of these playoffs will be LAN games, so that'll be really exciting because I think after a really long time, we are also keen to see some more offline Overwatch. We've definitely been treated to a little bit of it through the kind of Hangzhou and Shanghai homestands, as well as the Dallas Fuel homestand that took place. So, yeah, definitely hyped about that. And yeah, I'm just super pumped because we are not far from the end of the season, but there's still a fair bit of action to go through before we get there. What are your thoughts on this, Nightwing?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting format, definitely, and it's going to be great to see many teams come together for that live NA event in Arlington, where they can battle it out on LAN. And I think there's no mathematical way actually that the Dallas Fuel and Shanghai Dragons don't make it bec- into uh, the teams that are selected through the league point system, just because of how insanely high their league points are because of them winning the tournaments. And the rest of the teams is still a little bit up in the air. You might even see some teams that might surprise you. I don't think the winless teams can really make it in at this point. Uh, I could be wrong, but as far as I understand, because apart from the winless teams, most other teams have uh, like 3 or 4 points. So yeah, it's a tough ride for them, but everyone else, I think, still has a shot maybe to get into the playoffs yet, depending on how these Countdown Cup qualifiers and the tournament itself goes. So it's going to be a lot of very close competition, I think. Some teams are going to have to seriously level up, and other teams are going to have to look out for these teams kind of snatching their place, taking away their footing. Uh, so, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all unfolds. Anything else you'd like to say before we close it out?
Just would like to remind all of you guys to like the video if you enjoy our analyses, and do remember to subscribe so that you can get updates about all of the videos that we put out. And yeah, thanks once again for listening in. And yeah, Nightwing, anything on your end?
No, we'll just be covering the hero bands that do take place uh, in a few days. We'll see you for that next week, and we'll try and predict some matches as well next week. So stay tuned for that. Hope you like this one, and yeah, have a nice day.
Bye
Goodbye.
bye.